Hey guys, we're back again, and this is R2D Tech doing a tech review on the Samsung Galaxy S9 and comparing it to the S9 Plus. We'll be giving you our views throughout the video on whether you should buy the phone, but also new features. So stay tuned.
S9 camera. What is it? Where is it? Why is it? The front-facing camera on the S9 is an 8 megapixel camera with an f1.7 aperture, which is quite good, but it's just basically the same as all other cameras, so it's not really any different. Why? The back-facing camera, on the other hand, on the S9 is one of the best in the market. The back-facing camera is a 12 megapixel optical stabilized camera, and the interesting thing is that it has a dual aperture. And what this means is that it can either have an f1.8 aperture or an f2.4 aperture. And the 2.4 aperture is good for low light conditions because it allows more light into the camera, which is good because, well, you can take better pictures in low light. The S9 Plus has a dual camera. We've seen this on the Note 8, on the iPhone 10, on everything else. But what makes this special, along with the Note 8, is that one of the cameras is a telephoto lens. So it can zoom in twice. Well, that's the same as like the Note 8, iPhone 10. Samsung have managed to do portrait mode with just one camera, which is the same as the Pixel 2 XL, using their software, which is kind of a thing now. Get with it, Apple, or whoever you are. But then we also have another feature called AR emoji, which basically takes your face, turns it into an emoji so you can send it to your friends, if you have any. I'm talking to Kieran right now. Video is very good. 4K 60 frames per second is the highest setting, which is, well, it's pretty good. Pretty good, if I say so myself. Well played, Samsung. Send us one of your phones. Super slow-mo is possibly the most exciting feature about this phone, in my opinion. 960 frames per second, and you get 0.2 seconds of recording time, which is pretty good. That translates to 6 seconds of playback, which is ridiculously slow. Wow. I'm amazed. The thing is, you can only film for 0.2 seconds, so how Samsung dealt with this problem? They use AI. You can place basically a small box on your screen so that when some action is happening in that box, it starts recording for 0.2 seconds. Wow. Exciting.
Now we're going to be talking about design. One of the things which disappointed many with this phone. Although many people are really satisfied with the S8's design, and it was voted the best designed phone in 2017, it doesn't mean that the company should just leave it as it is, basically, and not upgrade this, because a new phone needs a new design, and people are expecting either a bezel-less display or close to bezel-less. What Samsung have done is reduce the size of the bezels slightly, but most people don't really notice the difference that much, which is a bit disappointing. One thing which people do appreciate with the S9 and S9 Plus is that they've moved the fingerprint reader below the camera now, because what people found with the S8 is that they put their finger on the camera instead of the fingerprint reader because it was harder to reach, and then they smudged the camera, which is pretty dodgy. As usual, Samsung are one of the only companies to keep the headphone jack, which is greatly appreciated, and also, they've kept the expandable storage, and this is probably something that's necessary on the Samsung phones considering they only have 64 gigabytes of storage and this is not changeable. In terms of ports, you have USB-C for charging, you've got the headphone jack as I said, but also you've got stereo speakers now, which should improve the sound quality tremendously. So with the display, the Samsung S9 has a 5.8 inch display, whereas the S9 Plus has a 6.2 inch display. So it's not a huge difference, but you might find it more comfortable depending on your hand size to hold the S9. Obviously both phones have kept the Samsung Infinite display, which is their way of saying that it has curved edges. They're the only company that do this, and it does provide a more immersive experience when you're playing games or watching movies. Unfortunately, Samsung have kept the Bixby button, which is a bit of a downside, especially because people don't really like Bixby that much. But I've got to say, they've really improved Bixby this year. And with Bixby version 2, they've got new features, like especially using augmented reality, which they've worked with Google to produce, where you can basically point your camera at signposts and they'll translate it on the actual sign. And you can also identify buildings and other things like that, which is more like a gimmick. You might not really use it in real life. Finally, with design, we've got the water resistance, which Samsung are really good with. Other companies like Apple are actually behind in this area, and personally I find it really useful to have a phone with water resistance, because I can leave my phone in places that I couldn't before, or if I drop my phone in a water puddle, it's not just going to break. So what you get with the S9 and S9 Plus is an IP68 water resistance, which is the same as their previous models. And what this gives you is the ability to submerge your phone in water, up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. Like, many people have tested this and gone deeper and for longer, and it's been fine, but they wouldn't recommend going deeper than this. It would be voiding the warranty. Obviously, on the back of Samsung phones, you have the heart rate monitor and the oxygen level monitor, and they use optic sensors to do this. But one thing which it's been lacking is a blood pressure monitor, which is the most obvious thing. And this has been difficult in the past to put on the phones, because normally you'd need to wrap something around your arm to measure your blood pressure, like you do when you go in an ambulance or in the hospital. But they've worked with the American Health Service and produced an optic sensor which can actually measure your blood pressure through light. Although this may not be as accurate as an armband, like in the hospital, it is certified by the Health Service, and it's something that other phones don't even do, so I'm grateful that they've kept that on, and they've improved it over the years.
Speaking of memory, with the S9, you get 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's quite good. Alright. And you also get 64 gigabytes of storage. With the S9 Plus, you get 6 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. So there's a difference there. I don't know. Decide which one you want. I'm not going to decide for you. The chip. Now, this is probably the most impressive part. Well, I said the slow-mo was the most impressive part, but this is another impressive part of this phone. The chip is the new Snapdragon 845 chip, which is right now exclusive to Samsung because they bought the rights to it. I don't know why. Expandable storage. You also get the SD card slot, which is good because it allows you to expand. Expand is good. Audio has always been a fascination for me. Right, with the Samsung S9 and S9 Plus, you get stereo speakers. It's Dolby Atmos surround sound, which is good. It's been tuned by AKG, which Samsung have a partnership with. And they are stereo speakers, which, so you've got one on the front and one on the bottom, so it's the best that we've seen apart from the Razer phone, really, so it's pretty good.
The next thing that we'd like to talk about is the software on this phone. Naturally, because it's the latest phone, you'll get Android Oreo, which is Android 8.0. So that's a good thing, considering some of Samsung's older phones didn't actually get this update. Obviously, this is with the Samsung skin on it, which is beneficial considering this means it will work best with the hardware which they've installed. And you'll get features like Bixby, which you can choose to disable if you don't like. But personally, I think they've improved it quite a lot over the last few years. One thing which is not necessarily new, but it's quite useful, is that you can connect 2 Bluetooth devices to the S9 and S9 Plus. You can do this with the S8 as well, but it just allows 2 people, for example, to listen to the same music at once using their Bluetooth headphones. And since Bluetooth is the future, it's a good step towards securing the monopoly in this market. Obviously, with security, you've got the standard password, the pattern, which you get on all Samsung phones, but then you've also got iris scanning, which is probably the most secure way, considering you could previously unlock somebody's facial recognition on the Samsung using a picture, which is pretty dodgy. Then again, they've introduced a new feature for security on this phone, which is called Intelligent Scan. This combines facial recognition and iris scanning to provide enhanced security, but also it speeds up the process of unlocking your phone quite a bit. Considering iris scanning, you had to put your phone right in front of your face. Obviously you've got the always-on display, which you get on many Android phones now, but also you have augmented reality, which Samsung has worked really hard on to improve. And this is through Bixby mainly, but also Google are working on some games which they can provide for Samsung which use augmented reality. We've seen this with Apple quite a lot, and it's good that Samsung's getting into this market too. Battery-wise, the S9 Plus is the most impressive with its 3,500 mAh battery. This will easily get you through the day. But then the S9 has a 3,000 mAh battery, which is really good, but then with Samsung software it tends to drain quite fast, especially if you've had the phone for over a year. So compared to Apple it's definitely really good, but in general you might need a power bank. Finally, you get fast charging with this phone, like on every flagship nowadays, and Samsung have tweaked this and improved it to make it as quick and efficient as possible. You also get fast charging through their wireless charging pads as well.
In the box, you get a USB-C to USB cable, you get a power adapter, you get AKG earphones, and you get a quick start guide. Very good. I like it. Good. I think that's a very good phone, obviously, but I think they should have made more changes to it from the S8. Why didn't they do that? You know, why? I'm going to tell you what they were thinking, because I know. They thought, since the S8 did so well, why don't we just keep the same design? No, they shouldn't have done that, because people want change. People want to, change is good. They want to go in the forward direction, not stand still like Samsung are, or go backwards like Apple are with their notch. Like they did some things like the fingerprint reader, they changed that, moved it down, so that was good. Made the camera better, added the chip, but I wanted a change to the aesthetics. Aesthetics. That's what I like. Like bezel-less, completely bezel-less, with a pop-up camera, like Vivo are doing with their futuristic phone.
In conclusion, guys, from my side, I think that even though design hasn't changed much, this is mainly because the S8 did so well. I think that was a flaw because obviously people are expecting change, but then again, it did sell, people are enjoying this phone. The next thing to talk about is how well the camera is doing. The camera really was upgraded, and it's brought some new technology to smartphone cameras. So Samsung are known for innovation, and this is definitely a step towards the right direction. The 845 chip is amazing, but then again the Apple A11 chip is probably a bit faster. It was definitely a good step to pair up with Dolby Atmos to produce their surround sound and introduce stereo speakers like the Pixel 2 XL has. Talking about augmented reality and Bixby is definitely moving towards the right direction, but then again, other assistants like the Google Assistant are definitely out there and are definitely a lot better at the moment. So most people, because it's an Android phone, will just download the Google Assistant onto their phone. With the new security features, where it combines iris scanning and facial recognition, this is the right step, but then again, Apple have a much more secure system, and some people might say it's a bit faster. Battery-wise, it's definitely great, definitely one of the top out there, and their fast charging is just top of the market right now. That's all from us today. We might be making a follow-up video on the S9 and S9 Plus a few months down the road. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you loved it, subscribe for more great content. Peace out.